For decades, we've been absolutely obsessed with hacking time, right? Scheduling every single minute, trying to squeeze every last drop out of our day. But what if we've been fighting the wrong battle this whole time? Today, we're going to explore a pretty radical shift. What if the key to a productive and actually fulfilling life isn't about managing your time, but about optimizing your energy?
Okay, let's just jump right in with a bit of a reality check. On average, a person lives for about 30,000 days. That's it. That is your entire life boiled down to a single number. And when you see it like that, it really forces you to ask, how are you spending each one? Are you just filling the hours, or are you truly living them?
We all know the feeling. You've got a perfectly planned day, a to-do list that's a mile long, but by 3 in the afternoon, you are just running on empty. You're there physically, sure, but your brain has completely checked out. So it raises this huge question. If time management is really the answer, why are so many of us still feeling so burnt out and unproductive?
So to figure that out, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at what's called the time management trap. Then, we're going to redefine our most important resource with energy, the real currency. After that, we'll get super practical with how to fuel your physical body and protect your mental focus. And then finally, we'll pull it all together by learning how to design an energy-rich life.
All right, first up, the time management trap. This is such a common mistake where we confuse being busy with being effective. We cram our calendars full of tasks that feel important. We're answering emails at all hours, but we're not actually moving the needle on the things that truly matter to us.
So how do you cut through all that noise? The source material gives us this really powerful tool called the deathbed test. It's so simple. Just imagine you're 90 years old and you're looking back on your life. Are you going to care about that extra hour you spent in the office, or are you going to care about the time you spent with your family and on your passions? All of a sudden, your real priorities just snap right into focus. And this is where we get to the real heart of the matter. It's time to stop thinking about time as our main resource and start focusing on our energy. Think about it. Time is totally finite and fixed. You get 24 hours a day. That's it. But energy? Well, energy is something we can actually renew and increase. This quote really says it all. Your energy level is more important than your time. Just let that sink in for a second. This one idea, this single reframe, has the power to change how you approach everything, your work, your relationships, your whole life. And if you're wondering why that's so true, just look at this. Seriously, which would you rather have? 8 high-energy, laser-focused hours where you do deep, creative work and make real, meaningful progress? Or 12 exhausted, distracted hours filled with mistakes that just leave you feeling completely burned out? The choice is pretty obvious, isn't it? The quality of your hours will always beat the quantity. So the big question is, how do we actually get and maintain that high-quality energy? Well, it all starts with the absolute foundation, our physical body. You just can't have mental clarity if you don't have physical vitality. It's that simple. And the source material is super clear about the non-negotiables here. Sleep isn't a luxury, it's literally your brain's superpower for recharging. Movement isn't just about going to the gym, it's a tool that creates mental clarity. And recovery, taking real breaks, that isn't wasted time. It's an investment that actually multiplies the value of the hours you do work. I love this way of thinking about it. Just recognize that you have 2 different selves. There's morning you, who's all ambitious and sets a goal to wake up at 5 a.m. for a workout, and then there's evening you, who's tired and just wants to hit the snooze button. The trick is to have morning you set up systems that make it almost effortless for evening you to succeed, like laying out your gym clothes the night before. Okay, so having a strong physical foundation gives you that raw fuel, but that's really only half the battle, right? You also have to protect your mental focus. This next part is all about managing your attention and your emotional state, which are just as vital to your energy levels. And a huge concept here is that your willpower, it's not endless. Think of it like a muscle. It gets fatigued from overuse. If you spend all morning fighting the urge to check social media, you'll have way less willpower left to tackle that big, difficult project in the afternoon. Smart people don't just rely on willpower. They actually design their environment to make the good choices automatic. So how do you actually focus all that precious energy? Well, you can try this. It's called the to-list strategy. First, just write down everything you want to get done. Now, look at that list and circle your top 3 priorities. And here's the crucial part. Everything else, everything you didn't circle, is now your avoid at all costs list. It sounds ruthless, I know, but it forces you to direct your energy only to what truly matters. Okay, get ready for this, because this is a really surprising fact about our emotional energy. The actual chemical reaction in your body for an emotion, whether it's anger, frustration, or even joy, only lasts for about 90 seconds. After that initial wave passes, you are actively choosing to hold on to that feeling. This means you have way more control over your emotional state than you probably think. All right, this next one is a little counterintuitive, but trust me, it's a powerful way to guard your energy. It's called strategic incompetence. Basically, this is about intentionally being just okay, or maybe even a little bad, at low-value tasks that completely drain you. If you're not the best person to organize the office party, don't pretend you are. This frees up your energy for the high-value work where you really, truly excel. Okay, so let's bring all this home in our final section, designing an energy-rich life. And the main takeaway here is that this isn't about creating some perfect, rigid plan that you have to follow forever. It's about adopting the mindset of a designer.
See, the thing is, your ideal life isn't something you just find out there. It's something you have to actively design and build and test. You don't have to figure it all out at once. Instead, just run small experiments. Try waking up 15 minutes earlier. Try a 20-minute walk at lunch. See what gives you energy and what drains it. These tiny experiments are what lead to the big discoveries about what actually works for you.
So I want to leave you with this. The most important question you can ask yourself isn't how am I going to manage my time, but instead, where will I invest my energy? Because the moment you start treating your energy as your most valuable currency, you stop just passing the days and you start truly living them. So what's one small energy investment you can make today?
You ever feel like you're just drifting? Like life is something that's just happening to you, not for you? It's a super common feeling, but what if you could actually change that? What if you could stop drifting and start designing? In this explainer, we're going to break down how to build a life that's intentionally built around what you truly care about, your deep relationships, and not just whatever's next on your to-do list.
So, let's just start with a fact that might stop you in your tracks. The average person gets about 30,000 days on this planet. That's it. Now, it might sound like a lot, but think about it. If you're 30 years old, you've already burned through over 11,000 of them. The point here isn't to freak you out, but to get us all thinking with a little more urgency, a little more focus.
And that brings us to the big question, right? Knowing your time is limited, that the clock is ticking, how are you going to consciously choose to spend it? It is maybe the most important question you could ever ask yourself. And the rest of this is all about helping you find your answer.
To design a life, first you got to understand your main building material, time. But time, it's a tricky thing, you know? It kind of plays games with our heads. So, understanding how our perception of it works is the absolute first step toward using it wisely.
You ever noticed how summers felt like they lasted forever when you were a kid, but now a whole year just vanishes in a blink? Yeah, there's a real reason for that. See, our brain basically measures time by recording new stuff. As adults, our routines make all the days kind of blur together, and our brain just flips on autopilot. It stops recording. The hack? Break the routine. Seriously. Take a new route to work, learn a new skill, talk to a stranger. Anything new forces your brain to wake up and pay attention, and that literally makes time feel like it's stretching out.
Okay, so now that we have a better handle on our most precious resource, time, we need to build a really solid foundation for our life's design. And that foundation, it's built from one thing: knowing what your real priorities are. Not what you think they should be, but what they actually are deep down. This right here is one of the most powerful mental tools you can ever use. It's called the deathbed test. When you start filtering your daily choices through this lens, all the unimportant stuff just kind of melts away. That pressure to answer every single email, the anxiety over little setbacks, it all fades. And what truly matters, your relationships, your experiences, it all comes into crystal clear focus.
Which leads us to this brilliant strategy from Warren Buffett. It's not just about what to do, it's about what not to do. Most of us, we get distracted by pretty good opportunities that keep us from the truly great ones. That second list, the one with everything you didn't circle, that's your shield. It protects your time and your energy for the very few things that actually matter. The big takeaway here is that real focus is just about ruthlessly cutting out the non-essential stuff.
So, with our priorities set as the foundation, we can start building the main structure of our life's design.
And that structure is held up by the pillars of our relationships. Because let's be real, a well-designed life isn't a solo project. It's built with and for other people.
I love this metaphor. It's so powerful. Every single time you interact with someone, you're either investing in that connection or you're taking from it. We forget this all the time, right? We only call when we need something, which is basically like trying to make a withdrawal from a bank account you've never put a dime into. It just doesn't work.
And what's so interesting is that it's the small, consistent deposits that build real relationship wealth. It's not about some grand, expensive gesture once a year. A simple text asking, "Hey, how are you really doing?" Remembering one tiny detail from a conversation you had weeks ago, or just truly listening without looking at your phone, these are the things that build trust and connection day by day.
And here's a truth about relationships that might sound a little weird at first, but it's so profound. While having fun together is great, the bonds that are forged when you overcome challenges together, man, those are often unbreakable. Being there for someone when things are tough and letting them be there for you, it creates a depth of connection that just having fun rarely can.
Okay, so we've got the foundation, we've got the pillars. Now it's time for the interior design of our life. This is all about how we craft our careers and manage the energy that fills our home. You know, our health and our vitality.
Seriously, forget the old idea of a career ladder. It is such an outdated, rigid model. Today's careers are much more like a jungle gym. You might move sideways to learn a new skill, or maybe even move down for a bit to get a different perspective. This flexible approach lets you build this unique combination of skills that makes you irreplaceable, totally unlike the straight, predictable path of a ladder.
This is so important. We are obsessed with managing our time, but we should be obsessed with managing our energy. I mean, just look at this. What's more valuable, 12 hours of exhausted, low-quality work, or 8 hours of focused, energetic, high-impact work? It's a no-brainer. Your energy level is a multiplier for the value of your time. You have to protect it fiercely. So, we have our blueprint. We get the importance of time, priorities, relationships, and energy. The final and most important step is to stop planning and start building. Let's talk about how we actually bring these ideas into the real world.
Let's just do a quick recap of the core principles in our life design toolkit. Remember, your 30,000 days are ticking. Create that avoid list to protect your focus. Make small, daily deposits in your relationships. See your career as a flexible jungle gym. And finally, manage your energy because that's the fuel for everything else. You know, life design isn't about creating some perfect, rigid 10-year plan. It's about running little experiments to see what works for you. You don't have to figure it all out at once. So I'll leave you with this question. What's one small experiment you're going to run today to start living by your own design?
Life is short. You know that feeling, right? That sense that with every year that passes, things just seem to speed up faster and faster. Well, we all feel that pressure, that time is just slipping away. So in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly why that happens and, way more importantly, what you can actually do about it. Let's dive in.
Okay, let's just start with a number. 30,000. Now, this isn't some abstract figure. This is on average how many days you get in a human life. That's it. When you see it like that, it kind of hits you differently, doesn't it? If you're 30 years old, you've already burned through more than 11,000 of those days, and you're never, ever getting them back.
So this is the real question we're trying to answer today. It's not about finding more time. That's impossible. It's about making the time we do have really, truly count. How do we start living with real intention instead of just letting all the days blur into one another?
So our first stop has to be understanding the psychology of time itself, because here's a little secret. Your perception of time isn't fixed. It's not a constant. It's actually pretty flexible. And once you understand how your mind builds this perception, well, that's when you can start to influence it.
Just think back for a second. Remember those summers when you were a kid? They felt like they lasted an entire lifetime, right? The days were just packed with adventure. But now, as an adult, you blink and an entire year has just vanished. Well, that's not just a feeling. There's a real scientific reason for this.
Yeah, this whole thing is called the time unit paradox. See, when you're a kid, almost everything is new, so your brain is constantly firing, recording all this new data, which makes time feel really dense and slow. But as an adult, routine takes over. Same commute, same desk, same tasks. Your brain basically just says, oh, I've seen this movie before, and it stops hitting the record button. And that's what makes the days feel like they're flying by. But here's the good news. You can totally hack this system. By intentionally throwing a little novelty into your life, you force your brain to wake up and start paying attention again. And it doesn't have to be some huge life-altering change. Just take a different street on your drive to work. Try to learn one tiny new skill every month. These little breaks in the pattern create fresh memories, and that's what effectively stretches out your perception of time.
Okay, so we've talked about perception. But here's the big pivot, the real heart of the matter. The game isn't actually about managing the clock. That's a losing battle. It's about managing what you fill the clock with. Your real, true resources are your priorities and your energy. This is such a powerful mental tool. It's called the deathbed test, and it's like an instant clarity machine. Whenever you're stuck on a decision about how to spend your time, just fast forward. Picture yourself at 90, looking back. From that vantage point, what actually matters? You'll find that all the noise and all the so-called urgent tasks of today just fade away. This strategy, which people often credit to Warren Buffett, is all about ruthless prioritization. Now, most of us are pretty good at step 1, but the absolute genius is in step 3. The things that didn't make your top 3, they aren't just secondary goals. They are now active distractions. They are the good ideas that will absolutely prevent you from ever achieving the great one.
And this really gets to the foundation of it all. We obsess over time management, but honestly, energy management is the real key. You can have all the time in the world, but if you're drained and exhausted, those hours are completely useless. A focused high-energy block of work will outperform a long, miserable, unfocused slog every single time.
So let's apply this kind of thinking to our relationships. This is one of the biggest areas of our lives where we invest our precious time and energy. But a lot of the time, we're doing it without any real strategy at all. I absolutely love this metaphor because it just makes so much sense. Think of every important relationship you have as its own unique bank account. Every single time you interact with that person, you're either making a deposit, adding value, or you're making a withdrawal. And the health of that relationship really just depends on the balance. And what's so crucial to get here is that most of the value comes from the small, consistent deposits, not the big, grand, flashy gestures. A quick text message, remembering a tiny detail they told you weeks ago. That's the stuff that builds real trust. And on the flip side, withdrawals aren't just about big fights. A lot of the time, it's just small, consistent acts of carelessness. All right, let's switch gears to our personal and professional lives. The world we live in now, it demands a totally new way of thinking about growth. It's not some predefined path you find, it's more like a structure you have to actively design and build for yourself. Yeah, the whole idea of a career ladder is basically a relic from a bygone era. Today, the most valuable people don't just climb straight up, they move all over the place. Think of it more like a career jungle gym. A sideways move to a totally different department might teach you a skill that makes you incredibly valuable down the road. The goal isn't just to go up, it's to build a unique combo of skills that nobody else has. Look, this is a huge piece of advice, especially if you're early in your career. Chasing the highest salary can be a serious trap. Instead, chase the steepest learning curves you can find. The knowledge and skills you pick up are assets that are going to pay you compound interest for your entire life. Trust me, the money follows mastery. So how do you do all this? You start acting like a designer. You stop trying to create some perfect 10-year plan, and you just start running small, low-risk experiments to see what actually feels right. You can't figure this stuff out in your head. You have to get out in the real world and test your ideas, starting with tiny, totally manageable changes. And that brings us to our final, and maybe the most important, section of all, mastering your own internal landscape. Because at the end of the day, how you manage your emotions dictates the quality of every single one of your 30,000 days. So before I give you the answer, just take a guess. When you feel that rush of anger, or that wave of frustration, or even a burst of pure joy, how long do those actual chemicals hang around in your bloodstream? That's it, 90 seconds. According to brain researchers, that's the actual lifespan of the chemical cocktail that creates an emotional response. Just 1.5 minutes. Now, this is a profoundly powerful idea. You can't really control that first automatic wave of emotion. It's just a physiological response. But everything that happens after that initial 90 seconds, that's a choice. You are choosing to reignite that emotional circuit.
If you can just learn to observe a feeling for 90 seconds without judging it, you can often just let it pass right through you. You are in control of the second wave.
As we wrap things up, it really all comes down to this. The grand story of your life isn't shaped by a handful of giant decisions. No, it's forged in the fire of your tiny, everyday habits. The quality of your life is really just the quality of your days, repeated over and over again.
Look, there is absolutely no point in regretting the time you feel like you've wasted. That's done. It's in the past. The only point of power you ever have is right here, in this moment. You can make a different choice right now.
So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. Don't try to change everything all at once. That never works. Just pick one thing. Maybe it's taking that different route home from work. Maybe it's sending that thinking of you text. Or, hey, maybe it's just trying to pause for 90 seconds the next time you feel a really strong emotion. What is the one small thing you will start today?